Well, let's go out and see Henry now.
I'm just busy doing a little bit of reading here. Reading the English language, by the way, along with a man who is an expert on the English language. We're going to be talking to Dr. Seth Lerer. He's a professor at Stanford and an expert on philology. He's going to explain why philology is spelled P-H-I-L-O-L-O-G-Y instead of with an F. His book is called Inventing English. And maybe one of these days we'll get around to explaining why George Bernard Shaw thinks that fish should be spelled G-H-O-T-I.
Wow.
Do you know why?
No, I have no idea.
Well,
because he doesn't know how to spell.
Okay, think about it. G-H as in enough.
Yeah.
That's the F. Okay, the O would be as in women, I, and then the TH as in nation. So it's fi-f-i-sh.
That's entirely too complicated.
No, it's actually simple. I just didn't explain it well. But anyway.
I was going to say, how long did it take you to figure that one out?
George Bernard Shaw figured it out. I never thought of it.
Okay. Thanks, Henry. See you in a bit. 9:36. Henry, what have you got coming up?
The waste on Uten Grant. What?
No. What does it say? Well, this is Old English. This is Beowulf, Henry. This is Fa was an Uchtang mit der grendles Gutkraft. Gummum undir. Thou was after Wister Wop up Hoffen Mitchell Morgan Sway.
That's right. Seth Lerer, professor at Stanford. He's written the book Inventing English. Fascinating because it's still happening, folks. English continues to be invented all over the world, including on this very station. In fact, let's listen to Vicky Liviakis inventing her own form of English as she tells us what's coming up on Bay Area Living tomorrow after the news.
Good morning.
One that's filled with the Shurasota, the Dracht of March has pers to the Rota, and I'm showing off, folks. See, that's what happens when you're an English major. You're not qualified to do anything but work in television. Is that true?
Yes.
Or be a professor of English,
That's right.
I suppose.
Well, people always say, you know, the major question that an English major is going to ask is, would you like fries with that?
Seth Lerer has come up with a better career. He's actually a professor of English and comparative languages at Stanford University, and he has written the book Inventing English, A Portable History of Language. And as you will notice, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed portable. I almost brought my Oxford English Dictionary just to show people what an unportable
book
example is. So in terms of inventing English, I mean, you think about our language, it is so bizarre. Why is tough spelled with a G-H?
Well, you see, this is...
You know, phantom is spelled without an F.
Exactly.
You know,
this is the legacy of English professors. You see that...
It's your fault.
It's all my fault, and it's the fault of my predecessors who legislated that English spelling should be historical rather than phonetic.
You mean somebody actually wrote down it's got to be this way?
This was the debate in the 18th and 19th centuries about why we should keep old spellings so that we preserve the history of the English language in the spellings. So when we see K-N-I-G-H-T, what we know is that at one point it was pronounced Knisht. And so the fear was that if we respelled it, we'd lose the history of the language.
And we'd have much better spellers.
We'd have much better spellers, but we would lose that sense of belonging.
So there's sort of it's almost an elitism. It's like the people will be educated to know how to spell, and the rest of the people who aren't educated.
And that debate's been going on for 400 years.
Well, does spelling still count today, do you think?
I think spelling counts. It depends on what context you're spelling in. I mean, I send email messages, and they're perfectly spelled and correct, and people think that they're elitist and they're condescending because the rhetoric of email is bad spelling, no capital I, lack of grammar, a whole range of things that are a kind of fake or faux naivete.
Yeah, and I send emails and people think I'm a total idiot. And I actually use spell checks, so go figure. It's obviously all about context.
That's right.
Now, the thing about English, you're talking about inventing English, but English didn't start as English, did it?
Well, it started as what we call Old English. It started as Anglo-Saxon, 5th, 6th century. It's a Germanic language.
Sounds an awful lot like German to me.
It sounds like German, it sounds like Dutch, sounds like Danish. That's right. Some of the basic core words of our language are 1,500 years old.
Well, when we talk about Anglo-Saxon, so you got the Anglo, the Angle, that's like the Denmark invasion, right? The Vikings coming over to England, right? What about the older, what was there before there was what we think of as English?
What's before, in the British Isles?
Yeah.
Well, there are the Romans for 400 years, and they're speaking Latin. And then before that, there are the Celts for a long, long period of time.
So don't we have any of their language left?
We have a little bit of their language. For example, the Celtic word for river is Avon. And the reason why the river Avon is the river Avon is because it's just the word for river in Celtic.
Okay, so you got this German-sounding Knecht language.
That's right.
And what happened? Why did we stop saying Knecht?
We stopped saying Knecht largely because the Normans came in after 1066.
The French.
The French, that's right. And all of a sudden,
always their fault.
People were eating champignon and beurre blanc sauce.
Okay.
I mean, it didn't happen overnight.
But the peasants weren't eating champignon and beurre sauce.
And that's right. And that's why we have things, for example, our marriage ceremony is to love, honor, and cherish, right?
Right.
And one of the reasons for that is that if you had someone who was speaking Old English and someone who was speaking French, you had to make sure what they were going to do. So love is the Old English word, honor is the Latin word, cherish is the French word. They all mean the same thing.
Wow.
So it's not three versions or three nuanced experiences.
Yeah.
It's the same word to make sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to do, regardless of the language that they speak.
Well, now, a word like, let's say, cow versus beef.
Well, this is the great story. The words for the animals are still Old English or Anglo-Saxon. Cow, beef.
Oh, peasants, because the peasants were
sheep,
speaking.
mutton, that's it.
Got it. And the upper class folks, they were eating beef.
That's
even
right.
If the peasants were raising
when it
cows.
got to the table, it became boeuf.
Okay. Now, today, we've gone a long way from boeuf and cow into yo.
Yes.
And, let's say, different kinds of English languages. Do you think that the subculture, the subculture of, let's say, rap language or rap poetry, does that represent the new English? Is that the future of English?
It's one future of English. It's infused English with metaphor, with image, with power. It's changed the way in which we express the body. And, there's a history to it. I mean, rap didn't come about overnight. And it's part of a larger history of African-American expression, about experiences of the Bible, the experience of slavery, a whole range of things that make rap, an extremely vital and vivid form of expression.
If you have any interest in philology, which is spelled with a PH, I know not why, but I'm sure you do, then this is really fascinating. Inventing English is by Seth Lerer, and you can meet Dr. Lerer at Cody's on Thursday, April 5th at 7 p.m. For more information, you can go to Cody's.com or you can go to Columbia.edu, which is the
website
the publisher.
That's right.
For the publisher. Or you can, as I say, you can go to Cody's.com. Thank you very much for joining us and for. Is it okay to say ain't?
As long as you know who you're saying it to.
Well, I ain't saying it to you.
Well,
you're a professor of English. You guys, I ain't avoiding saying it to you guys.
No, we used to say ain't a proper word to use. We used to say that in jest. We were just talking about remember when Robert McNeil was here talking about do you speak American? I'd love to get these two guys together and see how they.
Oh, what a great conversation.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah.
Well, you propose it to him and then tell him to both come together.
I will mention that.
Okay. Thanks a lot.